So good evening. If you want the last quarter, I just finished the last quarter moon ritual class, but I'll send that out. I think you know how to do that, Gary, but to Noemi and to Barbara. Tonight, I want to talk about balance and timing. I've been doing the moon work at 5:30 just to so that everybody can learn the rituals and stuff. And then at 6, I talk more. I mean, it is about the moon, but it's really about that synergy between the sun and the moon and how that affects. I mean, you know, we learn the moon work and that's one rhythm, but then there's a whole nother rhythm with the seasons. And then the sun and the moon, I've probably mentioned this over the last few weeks, have a 19-year cycle of interaction. And so, you know, in 19 years, the nodes will be back to Taurus North Node and Scorpio South Node, but they go through this 19-year cycle. So in 19 years, the moons will be at a similar time of the, similar time of the month and year. It'll be a very similar pattern to this year, but they change every year and then have this 19-year repeat. So tonight I want to talk, okay, I have to get out of my other, oops, I stopped sharing. I need to switch PowerPoints. Sorry about that. Okay. Hi, Taz.
Hey. Hi.
Hey. Hi.
Hey, Taz.
So I wanted to talk, okay, balance has come up. I've talked about it, but Angie's also brought it up several times. And, you know, one of the things that was illuminated for me for the lunar eclipse was the ways in which I was out of balance. You know, I was sick last week and I was like, why do I feel, I felt really, I don't know, exhausted for lack of a better word. But then there were other things that came to light that I was like, oh, this is because I'm out of balance in this area. And so I really wanted to talk about balance because it's part of the moon, of the medicine wheel that we use for our moon rituals, but it's also, I guess, implicit in the moon rhythm and implicit in the solar rhythm is this kind of sense of balance. And so balance and the way that we connect with timing is related, are there related concepts, I guess. One of the things, oh, okay, I guess I'm going to go through this. Okay, one of the things that I learned doing at the Personal Success Institute, it's a side thing that I study, the founder of that, Thomas Wilhite, he talks about how to achieve liberty. And I mean, I think he means like liberty in every area of your life, like financial and otherwise. And he says that you have to follow your spiritual self, you have to follow your spiritual guidance, but then you have to be in balance. The mental, the physical, emotional, and spiritual need to be in balance, but you follow the spiritual guidance and align the other three behind it, and that's the path to liberty. And I think that's really profound because I think having used the medicine wheel for 30 years and used it in combination with the moon and the solar cycle, there is profound wisdom in that. And I will say that, like I found out in the lunar, I was like, oh, I am really out of balance. Okay, I got COVID last year, and I've been really out of balance physically since 2 years of not going to the gym and then getting COVID. I have really struggled to get back to. I'm going to be 50 next year, to get back to the health that I want to be at. And what I have noticed, and like I say, one of the revelations of this lunar eclipse week was I'm a workaholic and I don't put enough time into my exercise. I don't put enough time, I say I'm going to do this and that, and then If I feel like I don't want to give up the work mode, I I end up doing the work instead of doing the physical stuff. So I've created a situation where I'm out of balance and I'm not giving enough time and energy to the physical. And even really struggle with changing that behavior pattern, because I've been putting on my moon wheel like every month, like do these physical things. And finally at the lunar eclipse, I was like, I guess I need to release something. There's some resistance to doing the physical health stuff that I need to release. And so that was one of the things that came out of this lunar eclipse week. But let's see what I wrote under the balance and the self. So we use this moon wheel. Oh, we use the medicine wheel for our moon wheel, but oh, I don't know where my things are. Oh, here it is. The circle is balanced. As you know, kind of, it's obvious the points on the perimeter of the circle are equidistant from the center of the circle. So the wheel has this, balance. The radius is the same all the way around the wheel. There's kind of balance is implied in the wheel and in the circle. This is the medicine wheel we use for our moon rituals. It includes the 4 parts of self, which are used in the 4 parts of self in many cultures. Each quadrant in the medicine wheel is equal size and holds equal importance for the overall effective, and I would say really for thriving. Balance is related to thriving as well, which I kind of come back to later in the PowerPoint. So I want you to consider, and you can do this on your own if you want, or tell me at the end if you want, if you were to rate your satisfaction in each quadrant with like these areas of your life, like what would you rate them? So, we have your mental and financial, your physical and space, maybe your emotional and relationships, your spiritual and creative. Like if you were to put like a number like between 1 and 10 in each area, what would this picture tell you? And so when I was thinking about this, I was like, oh, I put a lot of energy into the mental and the spiritual. Oftentimes my family suffers because I work and my physical health definitely takes a backseat then to the family too. So that's where I really see that out of balance. And one thing I want to tell you about this, it changes because even now, right, with the shift, we're building a house, I'm practically camping, right? The days are shorter, like balance, as you probably have heard that even in your physical body, balance is always in motion, right? Your inner ear is helping that equilibrium. And so it's constantly a moving target, which is tricky as well. So I guess I don't want to lead you to believe that you're going to get everything in balance and then it's going to stay that way. It's constantly moving. It's constantly shifting. It's like you get your work life in order and then some other area falls apart. I mean, I don't want to be negative, but that seems to be, where something needs attention, or you get COVID and then you have fatigue or whatever, like in my situation, I've been having a really hard time getting back to the physical health that I was in a few years ago. Oh, and I put balance leads to liberty, which is what I was saying at the beginning of that. So balance and the moon cycle. The moon, we experience that balance of the waxing and waning of the moon. There's an equal growing of the light to the full moon as well as decreasing of the light to the new moon. The moon rules the tides, which is like the inhalation and exhalation of the earth. And the way that we align with the moon cycle, there's a balance between the active and receptive phases. So, we listen and observe at the new moon and the full moon, and then we take action and release, which is a form of action, take supportive actions and do the releasing at the quarter moons, which is a balance of the active and the receptive. I think to get in balance with the moon, it's it's the easiest way to get in balance with the moon is to get in sync with the phase that the moon is in. So this is where the timing comes in. This week is the last quarter. The last quarter is on Wednesday, and we're in the waning phase. So it's a time to do that shedding, clearing, releasing. And if you get into this habit of doing this every month, it is amazing how much movement and change you can have in your life by just getting in a habit of releasing emotions or habits, or whatever it is that needs to be cleared. And for, like, if you need to forgive someone, that's a form of clearing. This is a really good time to do that because you're aligning with that waning energy of the moon and opening yourself really to, I would say, the bigger spiritual picture that's available at the new moon when you clear the old out. There's new opportunities that come in when you clear and shed at the last quarter moon and make way for the new. Balance in the solar gear. So this, I think there's a lot of interesting things about this diagram. There's, we're down here where the nights in the northern hemisphere, the nights are longer and the days are shorter. And then in the summer, we have these really long days and short nights. And in the winter, we have these super short days. There's a balance, kind of moving balance between light and dark. At the equinoxes, we have equal night and equal day. And then we are in this moving thing in the seasons between light and dark, between the seasons. And then these, similar to the moon cycle, there's like these more active periods and more receptive periods. I would say, from studying the garden and this work for a long time, I would say spring leading up to the summer solstice is a really active period, and fall, like we've just been through this, hopefully it's calming down for you. We're kind of in or been in a really active period, but hopefully there's like some, or maybe the ideal is if you can give yourself some quiet and receptive time in the winter and the summer, that will rejuvenate you on the soul level. If you can allow yourself in these summer and winter periods to have that renewal and that quiet time, that receptive time, you will feel a lot better. And so there is balance implied in this solar rhythm as well. And here we are at practically the middle of November, right? We have 5 weeks left maybe until the winter solstice. And if you kind of sink into this image, it's like you kind of feel like that, how this energy is slowing down and leading us towards that inward or receptive need. Okay, so the cycle of the soul is related to the solar rhythm. I basically created this based on my study of the garden. And also I did read a bunch of books on how the Wiccans connected to the solar year and other pagan and agricultural traditions, trying to understand like what is this rhythm. And so I created many traditions see the solar, you see the year and the seasons as a wheel. So right now, so there's a balance in here. There's a subtle balance, or maybe it's obvious to you guys, but it hit me this last week with the eclipse week. Where I was like, when I got sick last week, I was like, something's not right. Not because I was sick, but like by the time Wednesday rolled around, I was like, what is what is bothering me? What's this internal conflict going on? And I realized that I really wanted to still be in summer mode where I was working. And I was not really accepting that we're a week away from Thanksgiving. It's dark outside, the days are short. I have to really rethink my schedule. Like I say, we're building a house, so I practically live outside. I have to really rethink my schedule. I can't exercise at 6 a.m. because it's freezing outside. I could, but I don't want to. I need more sleep. Like, everything has shifted and I was out of sync with it. And so even if you don't live outside, if you don't want to do that, I respect that. But I encourage you to consider what this psychic death and Thanksgiving time is really about. We do have a period where we celebrate, where we have these traditional celebrations of the harvest, Thanksgiving in a week, and then the holidays, which is really like this time of experiencing the abundance of the year and the prosperity of the year. So definitely do that. But there's also an energy, like if you look out in the garden, things are dying back, and maybe you even have snow or ice on the ground. In the morning, even in Sedona here, there's a thick layer of frost. I would say there's a wisdom in getting in balance with these seasons and letting some of the like active, like it's not springtime. I don't know how to explain it any better, but like sometimes I want to act like this, like the whole year is spring and I'm going to initiate all these things, but it's really not a great time. I don't know if you've ever hired for a job at Christmas time or applied for a job. It's a horrible time to start to try to get hired or find something, unless you're going to work for a retail place or something like that. So there's certain things that are really hard. You have done to us, hard to put emotion at this time of year. And so I guess what I'm counseling here is surrender to that energy of this time of year, which is really about letting go of the solar year, whatever, and celebrating the harvest that's come in for this year. Because there will be time, we have this new energy that comes in at the winter solstice, and there is time. This has been what I'm sharing this because this has been one of the hardest lessons of observing the solar year for me, is just to surrender and letting go of this time of year so that the new can come in. It's like the new moon. It's like surrendering the stuff and the crap and whatever's holding you back so that the new can come in. So something new can come in next year. So there's a balance there. Somehow, by aligning with the wisdom of nature and the plant cycle, we can get in balance like nature is in balance. And one other thing that I have in my notes here, what boggles my mind is these little pie slices, they're only 6 weeks long. So it's amazing to me that the plants, like if like watching the solar year, like here, there's nothing going on in the winter here between winter solstice and there's not much going on really between, out in nature between, like in my garden, between February 2nd and the spring equinox. And then all of a sudden I noticed this year at the spring equinox, the grasses just grew like, it was like green fire. They grew so fast. And the 6 week period was so active. And then there was this second part where there was the bees and the fertilizing and the pollination, and that phase went really fast. And then things were growing. They had already kind of reached some sense of equilibrium by summer solstice. Like, these are really fast periods. So like kind of aligning with the energy of it. It goes by, just trust that it's going to go by really fast, and then you're going to have to switch to the next one. But there is a form of wisdom here that I don't know if I think it's more important that you experience it than take my word for it. So I would, go observe what's happening in if you garden, watch what's happening in your garden, what's happening in your neighborhood, what's happening to your trees. Really observe your own environment, because we all live, Gary and I live in similar regions, but the rest of us all live in different places. So watch what the subtle shifts are that support this balance of nature in your own environment, because you'll see what I'm talking about, how fast these phases really are. And how it's amazing that I think a plant can like practically like do its whole thing in like with these short little bursts, is really incredible. And that it need, oh, one more thing, that it needs this whole cycle, right? The plants, the leaves need to fall off the trees, and that puts the, right, that's on my next slide, but it puts that energy in the roots, and that's what's needed for next year's growth. So all of these parts of the cycle are really necessary for really thriving and for flourishing. And this, the reason agricultural peoples aligned with the moons of the sun cycle was for prosperity. And so hopefully it will bring you a type of prosperity, maybe not just financial, but a prosperity that comes from being in balance physically, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. There's a prosperity there that's not just financial. And so I included most of this information last week. So if you read it, sorry, I'm just going to repeat it again. I gave you a new picture here, but I realized what I was thinking about last week when I typed that up on Monday was what's important about this part of the cycle. What's important about surrendering? What's important about this going into the underworld? It really is for this greater balance. Like I just said, the tree sends its sugars down, right? Like my catalpa tree now just dropped its leaves this week. If you looked at my slides from last week, there were still leaves on there and now they're gone. And so this is the moment when that tree is sending the sugars down from the branches into the roots, and the roots are growing again for next year, right? All that internal stuff growing under the soil is for next year's growth. So if we don't stop and do the inward part, we're really robbing ourselves of the potential of what's possible next year. So I hope I haven't hit that too hard, but I do think it's important to honor and listen to the subtle cues going on here to align, to, like I say, to align with it. And I'll just say it, the soil is in an important phase of the year too, as the ice and the frost break down the leaves and the plant matter, the organic matter, into nutrients. So Scott and I have been studying permaculture. The key to thriving and feeding people and our prosperity on earth is how healthy the soil is. So again, this time of fall, this second half of fall and winter is the most important time to create that life vitality of the soil for the future year. Because of the action of the ice and snow and frost. And like I say, the reason I feel so passionate about it is because we've really, as Americans, this is contrary to what we're told in our culture, which is often we are told to be productive, don't stop, don't go inward, just keep taking massive action, take massive action all year long, make it happen. I don't know. I don't believe that that's wise. I think listening, the balance between the inward and the outward, the yin and the yang, the in breath and the out breath, that is wise for if you want real thriving and real prosperity and real health. The balance is what's needed. And we can look, like I say, to nature to see how that works. So I told you my story that it's been hard for me to let go. And I've kind of hit the points that this is the time of going inward. And there is like, if you go back to I want you to just think about this as like riding a wave at the ocean or whatever, right? Like there is that sense of like, the energy is pulling out and right, like you're communing with the big wave right now, and then it'll come back in. You got that. I guess where I'm going with that is you got to have faith. You got to have faith that if you let go and take this journey to the underworld and give yourself that peace and renewal, that you will have that process, that in and of itself will create that inward growth, like the roots growing for next year's thriving, and that you'll be taken care of, right? There's something underneath this, like this yang, like go, go, go. It's masking this poverty mentality about we have to be going all the time to be creating our prosperity because we won't be taken care of. And we got to be in control of it. I think that, like I say, that is not what I believe spiritually. I hope I'm not offending anybody, but we are taken care of. And if we allow ourselves to have what we need on a spiritual level, our needs will be met. And so it does take some faith to not to go against this American idea of being in control and taking massive action constantly to make it happen for yourself. I'm suggesting is you got to make some room for spirit and for God to come in and help it happen. I mean, help it be delivered to you as we let go and surrender at this time of year. And the last is balance and the eclipses. We are in the last week of the eclipse season. The sun is still in relationship to the south node right now. So I guess what I'm asking here for balance with the eclipses is, what have you observed over the last really 7 weeks is when the eclipse cycle began. Is there something you must increase to create balance or something you must decrease to create balance? This eclipse, the focus was really on letting go because of the south node thing, but we're letting go in order to move towards something. So it could be either. That could have seen both or either, or hopefully illuminated something. Usually something comes to light at the eclipses where the intensity brings stuff to the surface. And so consider what it is that you've observed over the last, like I say, 6-7 weeks that can inform you about how to create this greater balance in your life and the prosperity. And I mean, like I say, when I say prosperity, I'm implying a prosperity that comes from balance between the mental, physical, emotional, and spiritual.